Hi all, I'm Vladimir, you are on the BimmerDoc channel. In today's video, we'll go deep inside the world of different launchers that are used to code your BMWs. I'll cover all of those because I have purchased every single one of those and I have used those for at least several months and some of those even for several years. So believe me, I have enough experience to cover that topic perfectly. For your convenience, I have created the timeline for that video. So if you're interested in some kind of specific launcher, just go to that topic and see it as many times as it's needed, because information in that video, I'm recording that video, it's 26th of September. Most likely you'll see that video in October or November of 2023. But by the time of creating the video, I have downloaded all the latest versions of all the different launchers. I have used those for at least a couple months, maybe in several years. So we'll discuss a lot of different new things. But first of all, we will discuss what is launcher and why it's needed at all to work with the BMW properly. As example, in today's video, I will use my BMW G30. It is 5 Series. Yes, it is in G Series chassis, but actually it doesn't matter for today's video. Whatever F or G Series car will suit. I will use the basic Ethernet cable to connect to the car. If you don't know the sequence how to connect properly to your BMW to code it, please see my Esys for Dummies manual part 1, and actually there is already part 3 and maybe even part 4 released, so feel free to see those. So first of all, what is launcher and why it's needed? To code the BMW, the engineers on the factory use the software called Esys. That software, every engineer on the factory, it has its own USB key that allows him to go deep inside your ECUs of your BMW and to change several parameters over there. Without that special key, with the plain Esys, you cannot access the ECU to a full depth and go inside and change the single parameters. So the launcher is add-on to the software itself that allows you to go inside the ECU and change the several parameters. So let's see how it looks like with the launcher and without the launcher if you're connected to your vehicle, because guys, it is important to understand. Believe me, I am asked a lot of times, BimmerDoc, why the launcher is needed, why I cannot just use the plain Esys, and here is why. So let's see. To make it very clear, let's choose one parameter we will be changing with all the different launchers, and let's see if it's possible to do that or not. Of course, everybody knows about the start-stop system that is integrated into the BMWs to save up some fuel, but actually it is very annoying and definitely not making any good to your vehicle. To change that, you need to go inside the certain ECU and change one line from active to not active. On G Series, that parameter is located, for example, in the engine ECU. So let's launch the Esys without a launcher and let's try to change that. I'm opening Esys version 3.30 without any launcher and establishing the quick connection. I will just fast forward that until we'll be in the right place. So I have connected to the vehicle. Now let's go inside the engine ECU and try to change that. Be aware that in the top left corner over here, you can see that it's just plain Esys version 3.30 without any launchers. I'm going to engine ECU, trying to read the coding data. Actually, it allows me. But now, if I'll try to go inside it, you'll see the token is required. That's why without a launcher, you cannot go inside there. Let's make one more example. I'll close that Esys version 3.30. Let's open another one. For example, let's open 3.36. I'll fast forward the connecting process so you will not waste your time. Now we are again in the same place. Pay attention, I am using the Esys 3.36, so it is another version, and different versions of the Esys will treat your car a bit differently. I'm reading down the coding data. Actually, it shows read out. Let's try to go inside the coding file and actually it allows us to go in, but if we will expand whatever other folders, you can see only the dots. It means that the software cannot decrypt the information that's located inside the ECU to the human language, and that's why you can't understand anything. Of course, if you hit the right folder and try to change the parameters, actually yes, it will work, but do you know what are you changing? Of course not. That's why the launcher will be needed. Let's launch whatever random launcher, and I just want to show you why the launcher is important. At the moment, the choice of a launcher doesn't matter at all. I just want to show you what will be the difference. Because guys, it is important to understand why the launcher is needed. Without understanding that, there is no point to watching that video, because it is very specific. We're talking about the engineer level software, how to work properly with your BMW. Now we are again in the same place. Let's open our engine ECU. Let's try to go inside there. Let's go inside, and actually now you can see different folders, structures, and so on. So now we will be able to look for the function to disable our start-stop system, because now the launcher decrypts everything that's written there. So at the moment you can see the MSA memory is enabled, so because it's my car, it should be in that way. Do all coding and programming operations with the BMW require a launcher or not? Of course not. If you have seen my series how to work with the Esys, or there actually I'm explaining where the launcher will be needed and where it will be not needed. To sum up, the launcher is needed only for one thing: to go inside the ECU and compare, and not compare, but change some things over there. Of course, the best versions of the launchers, they have some additional tools, for example, built-in diagnostics and comparing of different files and so on. So that's why it is super handy and super convenient. And only now let's go to the main topic of the video, comparing different launchers, because now we are on the same basics. Some pre-assumptions I can tell you about that video. The coding we'll be talking about is coding 1.0. So it is the basic coding that is used in BMWs up to year-ish 2020-21 produced cars and so on. The newest BMWs, they are using secure coding. It's also coding as coding 2.0. Over there, the coding is made on the back end of the server, and that's why it's at the moment it is impossible or very hard to code your BMW if it is protected with secure coding. So the information I'll be covering goes only about the coding 1.0, but actually it is the majority of the BMWs at the moment. The structure of the video I have made will be very simple. I will tell you all the pros and cons of that launcher I have found for the years of experience. Of course, I will show you the place from where you can officially purchase it. Of course, it will be not, for example, the eBay, because on the eBay you can go somewhere and purchase some random stuff, and actually it will be the cracked version of the crack and so on. So you're paying money to I don't know who, and you will not get the original product. So only use the original products and support the developers. That's why I'll show you from where to purchase. Also, I would like to point out that that will be as fair comparison as it's possible in all cases, because I have purchased all the launchers for my own money. No one has sponsored that video. That's why I can tell whatever about all the launchers. Like, it will be the really true experience working with those launchers. So if something is very good, I can tell, actually guys, it is a good launcher. And if something is bullshit, then it will be said in that video as follows. The first launcher we'll cover, actually it was like really the first launcher that was made for the BMWs. It was created by the Token Master. Actually that guy, he made so much for the BMW coding community, so we just can't describe that. That launcher is Launcher Pro version 2.8.1. At the moment you cannot purchase that launcher anymore because it's way too outdated. That version was actually cracked and you can use it for free, so you don't have to purchase it. That's why the best thing about that launcher, that you can get it for free. If someone is selling that to you, so just you can get it for free. The license will not expire. That's it with the pros. So some cons. that launcher will not support all the newest BMWs. Actually, it will support all the F series and only part of the G series, but definitely not all the G series. And that's it. There is also actually for the cons, no additional benefits, no bonuses are built in. So no built-in diagnostic tool, no NCD coding comparison, no FTL coding comparison, nothing from that. So it is very, very basic product. So let's see how it looks like. So the launcher version 2.8.1 we're talking about. I'm just launching it. You press it launch now. Also, it supports the Esys, the newest Esys it supports is 3.30. And that's why it cannot work, cannot treat the newest BMWs. Because the Esys 3.30, it's a bit too old already, but still usable. Let's establish the connection. With the majority of the launchers, you will see in the top left corner the version of the launcher I'm using. I'm recording my screen, so you'll see all in details. I'm opening the connection manager. Without any filters, you should see something like that. So just different vehicles and so on. Because we are in the G30, let's try to connect to that. Ethernet cable, absolutely, and press connect. That launcher will connect to the vehicle, will read it out without problems. It will be able to work with some of the ECUs of my G30, and it will be not able to work with other ECUs of the G30 because it's just outdated. With the F series there will be no problems, but with the G series there will be problems. Also, the downside of that launcher, you can see activating FA. That launcher version has some bug that on some vehicles the activating the vehicle order will just take ages and will not end. It is just as it is because it's free version, you can't complain to anyone. If that thing happens, you just have to close it and restart it again. Sometimes connecting that same launcher to the version 3.29 will also solve the issue. It might happen that activating the FA takes 5 minutes and still fails. For example, how it happened in our case, activating FA is not successful. So I'll just kill the launcher and try to launch it again. From the second try, activation of the FA was successful. I'm still using the same launcher. Now let's try to go inside the engine ECU and try to change something there. Let's see if it opens up. With the help of the launcher, it should go in. And it shows no more memory available, blah blah blah, and so on. Actually, my laptop, it has 16 gigabytes of the RAM, but the amount of the memory you can assign in different launchers might vary a bit. So that's why you can see, yeah, it is old version of the launcher. No complaints because it's free. From the third try, I was able to enter the parameters of the engine ECU, and actually over here you can see that that launcher is decrypting it well and it shows the same parameters, so everything should be okay. The thing I would like to show you, actually, as I told you, that launcher will work with the F series without any problems. With the G series you will be able to access some ECUs and you will be not able to access another ECUs. Why is the difference? Because the software level inside the one car in some ECUs, for example in the engine, could be lower, and in some ECUs it could be a bit newer. That's why if we'll try to access the BDC, the body domain control, with that launcher on the G series, some files might not be accessible. So let's see that. Let's try to go inside the body domain control, read coding data. It shows coding data read out. Edit FDL. No more memory available, blah blah blah. Something is very, very bad with that one. Actually, it should allow us to go in, as you can see over here, but actually, yes, some functions are just, yes, something is decrypted, something is not decrypted properly. Let's try one more. Let's go inside there, edit FTL, and over here everything is decrypted, looks like it's decrypted properly. Overall, to sum up about that launcher, as I told you, F series no problems, G series some ECUs will be able to work, some ECUs will be not able to work. No extra built-in bonuses like built-in diagnostics, anything comparison, and so on and so on. So very basic, but it's free. So actually you can have it on your computer as a backup. Why not? The next launcher will be the older brother of the same Launcher Pro created by the Token Master. It is the newest version available at the moment. At the moment it is September 2023, but actually that launcher was, the latest release was in 2022. So Token Master is making his best, but the updates, because he's only a one-man army and not releasing the updates so regularly, that's why it could be a bit outdated. Definitely the pros of that launcher are, it costs only $50, so it's actually, in the world of launchers and in the world of the coding BMWs, actually it's nothing. It supports all the BMWs, all the F and G series, even the newest one. Of course, not the coding 2.0. Also, it has built-in NCD comparison tool. What does it mean? For example, if you will read out the information from one ECU, for example, engine ECU, you will have the certain set of the parameters. Then you will recode something and read it out again. You will have another set of the parameters. And the software actually, it allows you to compare those different ones. That's why it is very beneficial. If you want to see in details how it's actually working, I will not waste time in that video to show it, but actually in the Esys for Dummies manual, part 2 or part 3, over there actually I'm showing how that comparison tool is working. That's why actually it is very, very handy if you want to reach the, not the expert level, but actually intermediate level in the coding. It can be used on the several laptops, so it is definitely a pro, because you can have several laptops, you will use it on the one version, you reinstall the Windows or buy a new laptop, for example, and you can use the same license on another laptop, so it's definitely a good stuff. The downsides of the same launcher, actually the license is not a lifetime, it's for 2.5 years. After that you have to renew that. It does not have any built-in diagnostics. Why does it mean? You're working with a BMW, you're coding something, making some expert level modifications, and then you want to see how the car actually treats all those changes. You have to close the Esys, open the ISTA, make the diagnostics and see how that works and so on. Then close the ISTA, open the Esys again, recode something, and again and again and again. So that's why built-in diagnostics in the launcher will be like super beneficial, but at the moment it doesn't have that. Also, huge disadvantage of that launcher, it requires internet connection to boot up. So if you're working somewhere where there is no internet coverage, or you have to use the phone to create the hotspot, sometimes it's a bit inconvenient. Internet is required only to connect, actually to validate the launcher, that's it. It's not a big downside, but it's still downside. Now let's see where you can purchase that launcher, and then let's open it up and let's see how it looks like. Open your website browser, type in that kind of address. It doesn't have right certificates, no problem, just click advanced and proceed. You'll be absolutely okay with that. It looks like it's not opening up. Yep, now it's opened up. So here is a small description. It shows coding 1.0 and 2.0. I really do hope that the Token Master will be the first one who will create a launcher to make secure coding 2.0. If that will be available, that will be like the huge improvement over other launchers. But it's not supported at the moment. So actually, this is the website. You can go to shop now, and PayPal is not available at the moment. So yeah, It used to be over the PayPal, not anymore how it looks like. So it looks like temporarily he has disabled that function, but no problem. Actually, correction, the license is for 3 years, the price is still the same, and when it will be available again, you can purchase it. So at the moment it is on pause, but it happens very often with the Token Master products. So sometimes they're available, sometimes they are not available, but at least you know what you are buying. Let's open it up. So I have a lot of different launchers. So yes, Launcher Pro version 5 point something. You're trying to open it up. It will open up the console, from where actually I have already made the authorization. So now you can choose the different Esys, so you can connect different versions of the Esys to one launcher, and you choose just one of the launchers. Over here is the authorization process. You will use Google Authenticator or whatever else to connect it. I have made it already on the background. Check for the update. Let's check for the updates, and you can see the latest release was November 2022. So let's open one of the versions of the Esys. That launcher, it opens a bit faster than 2.8.1, but still, compared to the other launchers, it is a bit buggy. To be honest, it is. It was the first product I have started using. It was the beginning when I was just beginning that BMW journey, and sometimes it took kind of minutes to open it up. So boot up speed is not the strong side of that launcher. So the Esys booted up. As usually, top left corner you can see the Esys version and the launcher of the version of the launcher. Let's establish the connection. With that launcher you can instantly see the improvement. So behind every chassis actually you can see the variety of the cars that should be chosen from. So you don't have to use any additional things to connect to that. So it is very, very convenient. With the help of the filters, let's go to S15, and over here actually you can see, so G30 is over there. That's why I was choosing the S15 platform. Let's establish the connection. Yes, we have the connection. Connection established. Let's go to coding, read out vehicle data. That launcher does not have any problems with activating the FA anymore, because FA is activated automatically on the Esys versions 3.31 and newer ones. The difference you can instantly notice, the KISS is built in over there, so it is the database. So without the launcher or on other launchers, for example ACSM, you had no idea what is that, but actually over here it's written Advanced Car Crash Safety Management. So actually it tells you what ECU is what, and when you're just beginning to work with the BMWs, it is super convenient and super handy. So highly recommended and very good add-on to that. So what else do we have? Let's try to go inside the same engine ECU and open it up. To be honest, all the launchers I'm covering in current video will be able to open the ECUs and see the different things. Should not be a problem, but actually, as you can see, the launcher is opening the engine ECU and still the dots. A lot of subscribers have written to me, hey Vladimir, I have purchased the newest Launcher Pro and I have still the dots. So what's that? It means that that launcher, I have connected that to my databases and to the Esys version 22.06, and it's not handling it well. So you'll need to try to launch another Esys version or try to use another databases. As you can see, it is definitely not good. It slows you down, because on some vehicles you'll be able with the same version of the Esys and launcher to work perfectly. With some versions, with some vehicles, have to try, so it is not convenient. Let's try, for example, 3.40. So yeah, that version actually it's not supported. Sad. 3.36. Let's try it. Yes, it's being launched. Let's see if the launcher will be able to decrypt, because if the launcher is unable to decrypt, it's not a good product. And as I told you, a lot of subscribers gave me a feedback that Launcher Pro is not doing it every single time. For personal use, yes, you have time. If it crashes, for example, or doesn't decrypt, you can try and find a solution that suits your car. If you're working professionally, it might not be the best. I have reopened the launcher. You can see the launcher version is still the same. The Esys version is another one, but over here it's not decrypting the ECUs anymore. That's a pity. Let's go inside our engine. Let's try to open it up. It's being able to read it, edit, and still the same thing. Okay, gentlemen, I will not waste your time. Believe me, if I'll play with the version of the Esys, with the version of the databases, we'll be able to make that thing work. But yeah, you can say I'm just not wasting your time. What additional tools does it have? That launcher, actually you can see the NCD coding file tool, NCD compare, FA compare, and all those different things. Actually, all those things are super handy and super beneficial. And actually the token master, let's give him some credit. He was the first one who made all those tools. Before that, all those things were separate programs, but now they are built into the launcher, so it is very convenient. So, to sum up, it is cheap launcher. If you'll make it work for your vehicle with your databases, you'll be good. But would I purchase it if I'll be working professional with a lot of different BMWs for the second time? Most likely not. Let's go forward. Next one will be Bimmer Utility. Kind of new product. I have tested that for maybe 5 to 6 months. It's absolutely okay, so let's go deep with that. The pros of that: lifetime license. So if you purchased once on one machine, it will work lifetime without any problems. Also, developers tell that if you will, for example, buy another laptop, whatever, you'll be able to transfer the license to another machine. Of course, not automatically, with the help of the support and so on, but at least once it's doable, so it is a good bonus. But you'll be definitely not able to transfer your license every now and then, however you want. So basically, if you buy it for one machine, it will be locked for one machine with the limited transfer possibilities. But actually, I can understand why developers do it that way, because they're protecting the intellectual property. It's absolutely okay. It has a lot of built-in different functions. It has the built-in diagnostics, super convenient. Of course, it has all the coding file comparisons, FA editors, helpers, and so on and so on and so on. So huge ton of different products. So a lot of functions. We'll cover those in a second, no problems. Of course, it supports all the F and G series, no problems. You will always have the newest version. The Bimmer Utility does not require to have the internet connection. Of course, if you want to use some internet-based functions of the Bimmer Utility that it also has, then you will need the internet. If you just need the basic coding, whatever, you will not need the internet, so it is convenient. So now the downsides. The price. At the moment it is $109. The price might depend from the region you are living in. And the biggest downside, the Bimmer Utility, it is not launching the Esys itself. It is stand-alone utility. You might think so, and what's the problem? Believe me, if you're working with the BMWs professionally, you are used how the Esys looks, and you would prefer the launcher that's built in the Esys, not a standalone utility. So if you're launching the Bimmer Utility, you will have separate software pack, and you're using that. Of course, at the same time you can use the Esys as well, so they're working at the same time, but it's not as convenient as you're used to. It might be just my preference, you might not share the same feelings and so on, but it is a bit different. If you'll be used to that it's standalone software, and actually the Bimmer Utility does not require even Esys to be running to work with the BMW. So it is a bit strange, a bit different feeling, but yes, you can work with that. So let's go to the Bimmer Utility and have a look to that. First, where to purchase that? Of course, you go to the official website, and I always recommend to buy all the products from the websites. You click buy now, and actually the price is $109 at the moment. It's absolutely okay. Let's go to the features. Over here, all the different features are available. Of course, the regular coding, Edit FA. Actually, Edit FA in my Esys for Dummies manual, part 2 and part 3, I'm going inside the vehicle order, why is that, how it's built, and so on and so on. And over there I'm telling you that you will require some additional things, for example another cheat sheet to understand what is the FA option and so on. Over here in that utility, actually it has built-in cheat sheet, it helps you to work, so the Edit FA function is super handy. Cheat sheet editor, a lot of launchers actually do have built-in cheat sheets that help you to code, very convenient. Remote connect, it means that you'll be able to work with that launcher remotely with another station without having Esys or launcher installed on another side. It has built-in functionality. I have tested that, it's working. It's working with the Ethernet cable for sure. It is also declared that it's working with the ICOM to transfer it remotely. Haven't tested that, but I believe it should work. All the FDL editor and so on, yes, DTC codes, it's diagnostic trouble codes. It means it has built-in diagnostic software. You can go inside there. FSC status, it shows you the FSC status. The same thing you can do with the regular Esys. NCD compare, so you can compare different files, very convenient, must have. And cloud synchronization, what does it mean? It means that you can synchronize that with the cloud, and you can see actually some not do the codings from your phone, but you can see the cars you are working with and so on. I haven't tested that cloud synchronization in such a stand that I can give any good or bad review about that, but just that's another option that actually not any other launchers have, that I haven't at least seen. So the cloud sync is available only for the Bimmer Utility. But let's launch that. So let's open the Bimmer Utility. Pay attention, I'm launching the Bimmer Utility. You can set it up, it will be launched separately or together with the Esys. And actually at the moment you can see that it's just launched separately without any Esys, without anything. So it is standalone application. If you'll be used to that, it could be a very handy tool. For me personally, it's a bit difficult to use, but that launcher has definitely some good sides that no other launchers have. Let's establish the connection. Just press the connect. I'm still connected through the Ethernet cable. I don't have to choose anything. The software does everything by itself. So it read out everything, so blah 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 and so on. And as I told you, yes, it's working, but it's just a bit weird to look not through the Esys. But it do support that. Also, all the issues, everything is written. Actually, it is written correctly. Seat model driver translated correctly to the English, not some English-German mix. So it is definitely a good site. What else do we have? Of course, all the FDL editor, FA editor, so you can load the vehicle order, modify that with all the helps, tints and so on. Super convenient. Cheat sheet editor, you can build your cheat sheets and work with those. NCD compare, comparing two different ones. As I told you, Esys for Dummies, part 2 or part 3, don't remember exactly. Over there I'm comparing those. Over there, yes, I'm using the Launcher Pro and the Esys Plus comparison, but believe me, the different launchers will have very similar comparison options, but it's good it has it. Actually, the thing that the Bimmer Utility has that no other launcher has is VIN decoder. So if over here you will paste the VIN code and press search, based on the VIN code it will download some information from some kind of server. Looks like bimmerdata.com. This is the VIN code of my car, and you will have the information from the server. And actually you can even generate the FA based on the VIN code and save it to the desktop, and you will have that vehicle order for free based on the VIN code. Wow, that's really amazing. Of course you will need the internet connection. I haven't tested how correctly it downloads it from the server or how actual information is on the server, but based on the things I can see, this is not the latest information. It might be the information, let's see, the actual level it shows based on the VIN code, March 2021. It is the actual I-step of my car, yes. Retrofitted equipment, it shows 0. Actually, during 2022 I have made one retrofit. I have written into my vehicle order. On BMW servers it shows as official retrofit, or here it does not show. So I might make the deduction that the information from the vehicle order will be not the actual one, but if it's at least from the release date of the vehicle, it is already very good. And believe me, that launcher, yes, let's go back to home. We can press continue. Let's go to our engine ECU to make the test similar. So yes, engine ECU, it's reading it out. You can use the search, for example, MSA memory, and actually it shows it. Over here you can see it's on at the moment. You can make it off, click on, and so on and so on. So it is working without even the Esys. Also it has, as I told you, where is our DTC? Yeah, over here, my pardon. DTC, it's diagnostic trouble codes. We can read out the trouble codes, and it shows some errors in some different ECUs. The downside of that thing, actually, yes, it shows the errors of the ECUs, and actually it shows all the other ECUs, and it shows that no codes are present. You can print the codes, save it as a file, no problem. Let's save it to the desktop. Let's see how it looks like. Yep, it is saved as the TXT, and you don't need ISTA to run the diagnostics. Of course, that kind of diagnostics is very limited. It is not full-time professional and so on. The ISTA is needed anyway, but just for the convenience of use, it is super handy. And as you can see, yes, it's working as a standalone application. If you will launch the Esys at the same time, I just want to show you how the things will work if you're used to work through the Esys and you just need that launcher. So if you will open the Esys over top left corner, see the version of the Esys, no launcher is opened, anything, so no extra tabs appear, nothing. You can still connect to the car, you can still read out the information. Nothing in addition is shown here because it's just plain Esys, and Bimmer Utility is just a standalone application. And actually, if you'll go to the engine ECU and read coding data, it automatically shows you, do you want to start modifying with the Bimmer Utility? You just press FDL editor, and actually it goes to the Bimmer Utility, to the FDL editor itself. From over here you will modify there and write and press yes, modify the information, call the car. So it is still working with the Esys if needed, but as I told you, it requires you to get used to that. Overall, very good product. The developers are working with that. some new things are appearing. For example, the information based on the VIN code, you'll be able to get the vehicle order and even all the information from the servers, create the vehicle order and so on and so on. So very handy, very useful. Haven't seen on any other launchers, but the biggest downside, it's standalone utility. It might be good, might not be good. The decision is up to you to make. Let's continue. One important thing I forgot to tell you about the Bimmer Utility, it has also the backup functionality. Actually, it is able to back up the whole vehicle or some ECUs that will be hand-picking. I will not waste the time to show you how it works. Believe me, it works. I have tested it a couple months ago. It was absolutely okay. The downside of that function, it's backupping in the same format that Bimmer Utility is using. So you will be not able to use those backups with any other launchers. For example, whatever other case, your Bimmer Utility was working, you backed up the vehicle 2 years ago, for example, and now you have switched to another language. Those backups will be useless. It might be fixed in the future, and we'll go to that backup functionality with our next launcher. That's why I'm highlighting those. It is important functionality. Now let's continue. Next launcher will be Esys Ultra. It is also a kind of new product developed a couple years ago. I have switched to that launcher. I really do like that a lot, and here is why. First of all, some pros of that launcher. License is lifetime. Of course, it's the same as, for example, with the Bimmer Utility. It's locked to one machine. You can transfer it with the help of the support, like once or twice, I don't remember exactly, it doesn't matter, but it will be locked to one machine. But it will be always up to date. So you purchase it once, and if you're using one laptop for several years, it will be absolutely okay. Second, it has a lot of different functionalities, like a lot of course, DTCs or diagnostic trouble code, so you'll be able to make the diagnostics of the vehicle, comparison of different FDLs, the backup functionality, and everything, like super handy. We'll go into the details very soon. Super handy, a lot of functionalities, and actually to compare all the launchers, every single launcher should be able to code a single ECU. It is like the basics. Without that, it's not a launcher, it's bullshit. But all those different additional functionalities are the things that the different launchers vary from each other. Of course, it supports, the launcher Esys Ultra supports all the BMWs, F and G series, coding 1.0, not 2.0. It is a part of the Esys, so it launches the Esys and expands the functionality of the Esys, not standalone whatever do thing. Internet is not required to launch the Esys Ultra. Actually, to be honest, internet is required for the first time and then a couple more times, and then when you will continue to use the same launcher from the same machine, time over time it will ask you to connect to the internet to make the verification, and then it will make it less, and then, at least as the developers tell that, it will forget. Actually, it will be tied to your machine, and that's it. It will be not asked for the internet anymore. Downsides, the price is $110 without any taxes. If you're buying from other region, for example from Estonia, if you're going to buy that, the tax will be added. So the total price will be 130 something dollars or euros, depends on your currency. So it could be the downside. But actually, overall, very good launcher. Let's launch it and let's see how it looks like, and of course where to purchase it. Go to esysultra.com. This is their official website. First thing, the pricing, let's see it. $110 if you buy it now. The features, the whole list of the features are shown over here, and actually it is being regularly updated. New mapping for the newest databases, absolutely okay. All the features I have covered, everything works as it should be. FA helper and so on and so on. Yes, super handy. Even dark mode is possible and so on. Actually, Bimmer Utility also had the dark mode and so on. So let's launch it. For the Let's delete the old files. For the Esys Ultra, you will have the Ultra admin. What does it mean? It is the launcher for the launchers. And from there you can create the shortcuts which launcher to launch. Okay, let's start the Ultra admin. The downside of that, it is conflicting with the antivirus software like so badly. I have tried to add a lot of different exclusions and it's still being banned, and it tells that there is some kind of virus and so on and so on. Of course there is no virus, it just the antivirus software treats it as a virus. But okay, anyway, so over here you can, yes, create the shortcuts for different Esys versions. You can assign the amount of the memory is used for that. Always assign the biggest amount, because if the Java runs out of the memory, the launcher will crash, and of course it's not good. So it is the, yes, the launcher. You can see the version and so on and so on. So different settings, everything is available there. Super handy. I have created 2 shortcuts for me. I'm using the Esys version 3.36 and 2206. Let's connect with that one. Why to use different versions of the Esys? It's a bit more advanced topic. But anyway, having different versions of the Esys is important. And the same reason is to having different launchers. As you can see, top left, the version of the Esys, and you can see only the license, and actually it is, yes, for the Esys Ultra it says. Let's open the connection manager. Let's delete all the filters, and over here, of course, you will have, this is actually, it is the standard now for the launcher, so everything will show to which platform to connect and so on. Without that, the launcher will be not good enough. Establishing the connection. Yes, we have the connection. Read out the vehicle order. Okay, let's have a look. Of course, it also has the keys built in, so it shows the names of the ECUs. Super handy. Let's start with the basics. Let's go to the same engine ECU. Read coding data. On the background, actually, you can see I have the Bimmer Utility running. Pardon, gentlemen, I'll just close it so it will not interrupt. Yeah. And one more thing, in addition to the name of the ECUs inside it, it actually even shows way more information. For example, we are working with the engine ECU. Based on the software version, it tells me that is the type of the engine and the emission type. So Euro 6 and AT stands for automatic transmission. SCR stands that it has AdBlue and so on. So a lot of useful information built into the same launcher. Over here, yes, we can still find the same things. As you can see, everything is decrypted properly. From the first time, works well. Cheat sheet. Other launchers also did have the cheat sheet. You can press over here, top right, down right, reload, and it has some kind of built-in cheat sheets. For example, remember auto stop last value. You can, for example, review it, and it shows you that that value will be changed to on. Actually, at the moment, it's already changed to on. Different ECUs will have different options available. The same functionality for the cheat sheet, actually, it is also in the Launcher Pro version. Bimmer Utility has all the same things. It's also standard for the new good launchers. So nothing special with that. Let's see the functions of the Esys Ultra that other launchers do not have at all. First of all, down here in the down left, you will not see any additions over there. But actually over here, the menu is changed. For example, NCD compare. You can choose 2 different FTL files and compare those. Why we might need it. Again, Esys for damage manual part 2 and so on. That one, SVT toolbox. What's that? Actually, you can see different compare to different vehicle orders. read out all the different parameters, compare those FAs and so on, like a super handy function. Of course, we have diagnostic trouble codes. We can read codes, and it shows all the same errors. Yes, you can still the clear codes. After that, you'll be able to copy as txt or save as a file and so on. It should also, in my opinion, be the standard for the launchers. Without those DTC capabilities, it will be not good enough. The downside of all those built-in diagnostics I have noticed on every single launcher, actually, it shows me, for example, area line disconnection. Actually, this error is actual, but sometimes those built-in diagnostics on all launchers on a lot of vehicles will show, for example, that one of the speakers for the multimedia system is disconnected, but actually that speaker is working properly and E-Sys does not show that error. So it's hidden somewhere, or maybe just the launcher decrypts the error in a bit wrong way. The killer feature of that launcher, actually it has two killer features no other launchers have. That one, so it is the full backup. For example, press click, control, and clicking that, we can choose where to save that. Let's create new folder, G30, yeah, that's good, and let's press save. It starts reading out all the information from the vehicle, and let's see what's actually inside that save. Of course, it will take some time, depends of the amount of the ECUs do you have and so on. But if you're working professionally with the vehicles, different BMWs arrive every day, now and then, making the full backup of the vehicle before starting the work, it might save you a lot of time and money. And it's done. Of course, I have fast forwarded the process a bit, but to be honest, it took maybe 2 minutes. 0 errors, and let's see what do we have over there. We open it up, the VIN code, the date, actually the FSC codes, the FSCs from the head unit, the FSCs from the CAFAS ECU, even FSC status, what are accepted, what are rejected, and so on. NCDs for every single ECU in a separate folder, the coding files of your ECUs, VCM backup and master. Over there we'll find the original vehicle order of my vehicle from both the master and the backup. Actually, even the error codes, everything is backed up. SVT ECU, so the system variable tree of your vehicle also present. And because those backups are fully compatible with another Esys versions, so you'll be able to use those backups even without any launcher or with another launcher years after that and so on. That's why it is killer feature, and it is made in a structured way, like super handy. Highly recommended. Only because of that I would prefer to choose that launcher. Let's continue. To save some time, I will not go into the basics, how to compare two different NCD files and so on. It's just been covered a lot of times. I'll show you one more functionality of that launcher I haven't seen anywhere. For example, let's assume whatever vehicle arrives to a garage and you want to make some modifications. You want to know if any retrofits are made or what codings are made into that vehicle. And how to determine that? Of course, you can make the full backup of the vehicle, recode the vehicle, then compare manually all the files, and then you'll get information. But it's old school, it's not done in that way anymore. For that thing, in SVT toolbox, you go to FDL extractor, read vehicle data, and extract FDL. What does it mean? It will show me all the modifications, all the codings that are made in the vehicle based compared to the stock values. I'll tell it one more time because it's important. New vehicle arrives to you, you have no idea what was done with that. Client also usually doesn't know what was done with that because he just purchased that car. If you recode something, if you don't know how to restore all different retrofits and so on, you might be screwed. That's why that function actually will show you what was actually done with the vehicle compared to the stock values. It's just mind-blowing. Have a look. Over here, what we can see. You can see with the gray, the ECUs, and if nothing is written down there, it means no coding was made to that ECU compared to the stock values. But for example, in the BDC, you can see those different parameters that are changed. And from those, I can tell you that I have retrofitted the LCI headlights to my vehicle. Also, I have coded that my windows will not be stopping if I open the door while closing the window. Also, for example, in the engine I can see the start-stop memory is on. In the head unit I have made those different codings. In the cluster I have changed those different variants and no other codings were made. This is super feature. It's like killer feature. At the moment it's present only in the Esys Ultra. It is at the moment. Of course, everybody spies on everyone. If one feature is being introduced in one launcher, it's just a matter of time when it will be introduced in another launchers. But it is very super handy. And yes, everybody spies on everyone. Same for the different YouTube channels. Couple years ago, actually not couple years ago, but starting from the 24th of February 2022, I have switched my channel to English. Before that, the channel was in Russian language. I had a lot of subscribers who speak Russian. It's absolutely okay, no problem with me. But I get a lot of different angry messages. Why you switch to English and so on, blah, blah, blah. They're just unsubscribing, doing all the crazy things, leaving the bad comments and so on. But actually, no problems with that because, guys, you have to understand. The language you speak, actually, it doesn't matter. The information matters. Thus, the value of information decreases with the different language? Of course, no. That's why, if you do like my content, absolutely hit like, subscribe, share that video, leave comments, and let's continue reviewing other launchers. Of course, the same Esys Ultra launcher has a lot of different other functions. For example, a very handy one that I really do like. If you open the SLAP element, those are different codes. They are already decrypted over here, so you don't have to remember everything from your head. How it was, actually you can see it over there. And of course, if we will save the vehicle order, we go to edit and hit over here, new window appears, and actually all the options are present here. You can add, edit, delete those, and like a lot of different functionalities. So super handy. You might have noticed that I'm skipping some functionalities of different launchers. It's just because I don't want to make that video super long. It's not like the Lord of the Ring trilogy taking like ages to watch it. I'm just telling the differences of the launchers and telling you about my experience of those. That's why I might skip some information. If I did skip some information in some launcher that actually it's not present on other launchers and it's super handy, super helpful, please write that in the comment, and of course I will highlight in that functionality in the future videos because that was not made intentionally. Esys Plus. This is also one of the first launchers that was introduced. It's made by the Chinese company. Very good tool. I have used that for a couple years. Let's have a quick glance on that. Of course, it supports all the F and G series, no problem with that. It's being kinda regularly updated, no problems. Of course, it do have all the must features like built-in diagnostics, NCD comparison, and those like minimum functionalities. It's not as good as Esys Ultra or Bimmer Utility. It just doesn't have all those functionalities, but it has the minimum. The downside of that, you cannot buy that at the moment because it is developed by the Chinese, and a couple months ago you just unable to buy it. I have even asked a couple guys from the China. I just thought maybe it's some kind of Chinese firewall, whatever. Actually, they were unable to buy the launcher from the China itself, from the mainland. So I have no idea why the Chinese guys have discontinued that. Maybe just some kind time limitation or whatever. So if you do have that launcher, it is kind of good. I had that launcher. I have used that for a couple of years, but I changed my computer. For making that video, I wanted to purchase it again, and I was unable to do that. Also, I have the official license. The developers told that it will be able to transfer it to another machine if you write the support, but it's impossible to write the support, so it's impossible to transfer that launcher to another machine. But you'll be able to see the functionality of that launcher in my previous videos. For example, Esys for Dummies part 2, 3, I'm definitely using that, so it is handy. The huge downside of that launcher, it requires internet every single time to start, because it requires the validation from the server that you are using the original software. It is huge downside and not convenient at all. The price of that is 134 euros or something like that. It also depends of the region where you're living it. I'll show you from where you will be able to purchase that once it will be available for the purchase. You go to such a website like bmy.com, and of course it will be in Chinese, so you cannot understand anything. You can translate it to English, so it will be a bit easier to use. And over here you go to Esys Plus, and actually, yes, you can see the release version and so on, and you can see also it's suspend overseas platforms, so it will be impossible to install, download, buy, do whatever. Even if you have the license, you'll be unable to upgrade that. So it's just a pity, because that launcher was also good. So it was the website. As you can see, I had that launcher on my previous platform. We can try to launch it. It should be in that way. It works with that kind of Esys. If you press launch Esys, it will start launching the Esys, but at the moment of the validation of the launcher, of course, will fail, because I have another laptop. That's why I will be unable to show you in the full extent the functionality of that launcher, but believe me, I'll cover those, because I had a couple years of experience with that. And yes, so this is the problem we will get. Verification code. Even if I'll insert the right verification code, press download or upgrade the certificate, it will just tell me sorry, not supported anymore. But still, let's give some credit to that launcher. First of all, it was the first launcher, at least I was using, that had DTC built in. It is diagnostic trouble code or built-in diagnostics. It was the first one, super handy. Also, it was one of the first launchers, not the first one. Within the connection manager, it showed the platforms where you can connect, super handy. It has also the NCD comparison, so you can compare two different NCDs. And actually, that's it about that launcher. It was stable, launching that was very quick, it did not crash anything and so on. But having an internet connection was the huge downside, and the second downside, at the moment you cannot purchase it or you cannot upgrade it, and of course you cannot transfer it to another platforms at the moment. So if I had the launcher on my computer working, would I be using that? Maybe yes, maybe no, most likely. But would I purchase it again because of those different downsides from the Chinese side? Most likely not, because another launchers we have reviewed in that video are a bit better. And almost the last one will be the EsysX. Very old launcher. Actually, the production of the launcher has been discontinued now. They have switched to some kind of online platform. Because I have all the other launchers, and I had EsysX before. The EsysX, actually, it was a good product. The price was around 100-150 euros. The problem with that was the verification of that launcher. I was installing that launcher to several computers. Every time the verification process crashed and so on. They had even the USB dongle. It looks like that one. You can see even my license number. I'm not hiding it, so you can see I actually had it. But the problem is they had some problems within their team, and they discontinued the EsysX. They switched to a new platform, and actually that license was supposed to be also the lifetime. I also wrote the developers, so can I at least download the old version of that launcher, whatever. They told me, so sorry, it's discontinued, not supporting anymore, buy new one, and so on and so on. So that's why at the moment I don't see any point to buy EsysX anymore. But let's go to their website. So if you're interested in that, they might have some new features, but just looking to their website, they are not introducing anything that other launchers already have. So let's go to their website. As you can see, the EsysX looks like that one. The old EsysX, it is discontinued now, as I told you. Now they're using the Esys Next. So EsysX is no longer support, blah blah blah, and so on. So they have switched to some kind of cloud technology. I haven't heard any good reviews or even bad reviews, because I guess that project might be died out and no one might be using that. Don't take it as an offense or whatever, because I haven't used their new solution, the Esys Next. I cannot tell anything about the new solution. I had used the previous one. It had the problems with the activation. If you had activated it, or if you had the USB dongle, it was working kinda okay. The functionality was very similar to Esys Plus. It was working with everything fine. It had the possibility to compare the NCDs and that stuff, but actually nothing extra. Before we go to the final conclusion and sum ups for the video, very popular things are coding from the mobile phones. I would not name the different companies that are producing those coding stuff and so on, but just let's sum up. If you are working as a single person for your own vehicle, is it a good idea to code your vehicle from the phone itself or not? For a single person, yes, it might be not bad idea, because different phone coding applications, they have built-in cheat sheets, they're very easy to use and so on, but they have very big limitation. For example, if you have the CarPlay activated on your vehicle, then different phone apps will be unable to access the head unit to make additional codings in that ECU. So they are kind of limited. But usually the price for the phone apps is around 50 euros, and if you're working only with your vehicle, they are very handy and so on. They have limited possibilities. Sometimes if the software inside the car is newer than inside the mobile phone app you are working with, you might just lose the coding file in your ECU, and then you'll be unable to recover that with the help of the phone. Then you'll require the full-scale Esys to work with that. So my verdict will be, for a single use, yes, it's okay to use the phone apps. For the professional use, you'll require Esys anyway. It's not good to work from the phone to make the BMWs and so on. Laptop will be needed anyway. It was rather long, but I find it should be a very useful video for you. Feel free to share that video. Also discuss that in the comments. Write additional functions about different launchers I have skipped. My verdict for the launchers would be, the choice number one for me will be, of course, Esys Ultra. The best solution at the moment on the market. The next one would be, I guess, Bimmer Utility. Has some more another tweaks to use and so on. The biggest downside of Bimmer Utility is standalone application. It's not the add-on for the Esys. It's not expanding on Esys. It's standalone application. It might not be the bad thing, but for me it's not as convenient. And the launcher number 3, actually it's very hard to tell that, because Launcher Pro from the Token Master, the price is good, but actually I have seen it's not working as it should be. EsysX discontinued anymore. Esys Plus, you cannot purchase it anymore. So at the moment, at September 2023, only 2 launchers that I would recommend: Esys Ultra or Bimmer Utilities. And the one who will create the launcher or the system with the server backend coding or whatever that will be able to work with the BMWs that have secure coding 2.0 will be just the ultra killer, because not a single launcher at the moment supports that function. In addition, for my subscribers, some more information. At the moment, it is year 2023. BMW has already introduced the secure coding 2.0. Actually, they are working that from the year 2025 there will be secure coding 3.0. I have at the moment no idea what will be over there, how else it will be secured. But already with the secure coding 2.0, you are reading out the vehicle, you can see the ECUs, you can see the coding files, but you just cannot enter there and you cannot modify anything. So basically the launchers we are using at the moment, they are outdated for secure coding 2.0. It is possible, if you verify the coding file on the backend or with a third party, to still code the cars with the secure coding 2.0. It is hard, not many of us can do that, but actually it is still possible, and it's way more costly. That's why the one who will develop the launcher for secure coding 2.0 will be the new Pathfinder. Thank you for seeing that video until the end. I really do hope that was useful for you, and see you next time. Bye.